Hey, YouTubers, Tasman here, bringing you another episode of Fantasy Grounds from the ground up, Players Edition. And in our last episode, basically, we talked about getting Fantasy Grounds, installing Fantasy Grounds, and very basic configurations of Fantasy Grounds. And you should basically be where we are sitting right now. So, one thing to note about Fantasy Grounds is when in doubt, try right clicking. So if we right click on the desktop here, we can actually see that we get the option to exit the session. If we right click on, say, our chat window here, we get the chance to, or we get the opportunity or the ability to unlock the position. So when in doubt, always do that. So you can do the same thing with the little bar here that will have all the players listed. You can actually right click, or well, I guess you just left click on this little lock, and now you can actually move it wherever you want it. Keeping in mind that, if I move it over here, for example, any other players that join will actually be off the screen. So, putting it on the left is probably better because it expands towards the right. So we're going to go ahead and reset that position and go ahead and lock it back up. Like I said, you can do the same thing with just about all elements. You used to be able to do it with the dice, but I haven't been able to find the spot where you actually right click to unlock it anymore. So I think they've removed that. So if we unlock, for example, our little chat box here, if we want to maximize the space, we can, move it where we want. It is good to note that you can only resize on the right side and the bottom or the right bottom corner. You cannot resize anywhere else. You can't do a left corner to get a diagonal. Can't do it anywhere else. So you can line that up where you want it. I like to really kind of nudge it right up to the side there, and then maybe take this guy down about right there-ish, I guess, and then relock it into place. We can also reset the position to where it started, but now that it's locked, now you'll notice we can't move it anymore. So good thing to know about this chat window is if we come in here and we type something, we could say hello, like so, and you'll actually see. We can also type dice commands by typing slash die, and then let's say we want to roll 46, or maybe we want to roll our d20 or something. We do 4d6, and let's say the GM's being nice with us rolling our attributes and wants us to have a +1 onto that. We could do +1, and you'll actually see it'll automatically roll those dice in there and give us the total. If we wanted to do it where you actually drop the lowest, we do the 46 and then DL for drop lowest and 1, and we're obviously getting our +1 still, and you'll see that here we got a 4, a 6, a 3, and we drop the 2, but we also get to keep the 1. So here we have 10, 13, plus that is 14. We can do the same thing, just so you know, if you want to keep the lowest or drop the highest, instead of the DL, we could do DH if you have a especially devious DM that says, hey, not only are you dropping the highest one, you're subtracting 1 from the total, meaning you could actually get a character with like 3 for its attribute. So if we hit enter here, you'll see now we are dropping the highest, which is one of the 5s. We're also subtracting 1, so if we do 4 and 5, which is 9, I did that backwards, 5 and 4, which is 9, plus 1 is 10, but then we're subtracting 1. So you're able to do that, and there's lots of other commands you can actually do. If you do /help, you can actually get a list of commands. So you can do /action and then a message, and it will just kind of put it in a different font to make it look a little nicer, So here's that regular one. Here's that hello again. If we do /ACTION and say PUNC punches NPC, although like PUNCHE punches NPC, you'll see we get this red text showing that it's an action. We also have options. If I hit up arrow twice, oh, that was the wrong one. I hit it 3 times. So you'll see we also have AFK. This will put a little icon on our thing of, I believe it's Z's. We have console to show the console. We have dice. Oh, the dice volume. I could barely read that. So this is, as you heard when we rolled these dice, we get that little clicky sound and stuff. That's what it's talking about. This is kind of what we were doing with our dice rolling by doing die. We have emote for messages. It doesn't actually do an emote. It's just saying, hey, I'm emoting. We can export our character. We can get info. We can do mods. This is mod stuff, obviously. We can say our mood or whatever. We have out of character message, just so once again it'll do it in a different color, so we can say yes, this is out of character. Options, we can set options or just click that. It's a lot easier if you ask me. We can I'm trying to remember what R does. We'll do that in a second because I can't remember what R does. We can roll on tables. We can save everything. We can set the GUI scale. Right now our GUI scale I think I set to 80. We did that in the settings. The default is like 100 where everything's just a little bigger. Maybe 80 is a little too small because I can barely see these things. We have version, vote, and then we have whisper where you can whisper to a character or the GM and then you send a message. I'm curious, what is the role, the R one? Reply. Okay, so if someone whispers to you, you can do R for reply. You don't have to actually whisper back to them. I wasn't sure about that. It's been a while since I've done that one. So we also have this little drop down box right here. This will allow you to talk in your character's language. So for example, if we're speaking common, we could say, hey, this is common. And anyone that can speak common will actually see, hey, this is common, right? I think if I go over to the admin one, you'll see that it says it is understood because it's common, and it says, hey, this is common, right? Now, if I speak a language that other people don't speak, I might have to do that with the GMs to show you, but let's go ahead because we also speak Elvish, right? So I'm going to say, hey, GM, Elfie here. And you'll see that we get these fancy little squiggles and weird symbols and stuff like that. But then up here we get this, hey, GM Elfie here right there. And on the GM side, they're going to be able to see everything because GM can understand everything. And they're able to do this. Now let's go ahead, for example, and say we're going to speak in Dwarvish and say, oh, this window's not very good. Hold on, I didn't mean to do that. I need to change some stuff real quick. I got to grab the spot. Did it? Lock position, yes. All right, we need to grab right here real quick. Okay, I could do it this way then. Move that up. There we go. Now I was able to grab it where I needed. So go ahead and do that. And then we'll go ahead and bring this to about there. Sorry about this setup part. Let's go ahead and lock it. And we're going to go ahead and erase everything because we're the GM. We can do that. And then move the dice tower, which we'll talk about. All right. So now as the GM, and GMs have lots and lots of different roles, so I can actually talk as my NPCs and stuff like that, so that instead of saying GM, just for a little immersion, it will actually say the NPC's name. So here we have in Dwarvish, we're going to say, hey there, Elfie. And if I hit enter on this, you'll see that this is saying translation, hey there Elfie, but I can see it's understood by nobody. And if we go over to our character one, you'll see that we get this gibberish. We don't understand what's being said. So this is really kind of nice that, you know, you can actually have little messages, you copy paste whatever you want, a message, and only those. If I have other players that are elves, we can actually, even though we're in a party with, you know, a dwarf and a tiefling or something like that, if they don't speak Elvish, we can kind of, you know, mutter in our own language. But then this is also what it will look like if we actually spoke Elvish to them and say, we'll say the same thing. Hey there, Elfie. And if we go back over here, now you'll see, close that we still get the gibberish. However, we actually see the translation up here. So that's a really cool thing for immersion. I'm trying to remember if players actually ever have the option to switch. I think maybe if you have more than one character that you're running, you can actually switch between them, but don't quote me on that. All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is this little box down below. Once again, we can kind of find a spot right here. We can move it if we want by unlocking the position. This is your modifier box. So for example, let's say a GM tells me just to roll a 20-sided dice with advantage. It's not necessarily a stealth. It's not any skill check. It's not any saving throw. It's not an attack or anything. He just wants me to roll a d20 with advantage. So I can come in here, I can click advantage, and then when I left click and pick up this die, and then I throw it inside this, you'll see it magically turns into 2 dice, and it rolls with advantage. So we rolled a 5, which was dropped, and a 9, which was kept. So anytime you roll with advantage, it will mark the die as a red one as the one you keep. Also, actually, yes. Also, a good thing to know is when you roll a nat 1, it will be a red die. If it's a nat 20, it will be a green die, whether advantage is there or not. So now if we roll, for example, a disadvantage, do the exact same thing. Just throw that die in here, and oh, look at that. We get to throw away a 20, and we keep the 3. Now, if I were to, I doubt I'm going to be able to do it, but if I were to roll a nat 1 or a 20, they would be red and green also, just to let you know that these are crits or crit failure. All other dice will always be black. Let's try once more. I wonder if we well, I don't want to get into that right now. So we can do advantage, disadvantage. These other numbers right here, the -2, -5, +2, +5, generally a GM uses those for your cover, whether you have half cover or 3/4 cover. So if someone's trying to hit you and you're behind half cover, usually it's a -2, so you would click -2 and then roll your dice, and you'll see we rolled a 2, but -2 makes it 0, right? Or -5, they're not full cover, but 3/4 cover. We can also do custom modifiers. So we can come in here, click in this little box and do, say, plus. Did I not click in there? We could do a 5, right? Hold on, that's a minus. So if we do 5, it's a +5 there, right? So now if we roll this, it will automatically roll with that +5, and then it resets to 0. So we rolled an 11, +5, 16. So this is your modifiers. To be honest, rarely do I use anything other than maybe the advantage, disadvantage when I'm doing a game. But who knows, maybe your GM's different. The next thing we have here will be our dice themselves. So first thing I want to talk about the dice. Right now they're black, and generally when you start a game they will be black. If you don't like that, you have the entire gamut of colors. I believe it's 65 million colors you can choose from, because it just gives you the palette and the RGB values that you can, you know, dilute and increase the strength. So if you want to change your dice, you want to come up to Tools and click on this little Colors palette. This is the only thing that this color palette will actually do, is change your dice, but that also affects this tiny little dot that's right here that will make it so, you know, help you know this is your character right here, this is your dice being rolled, whatever. But you know, everyone likes dice. You can never have too many dice, and with this you're able to have 65, did I say million? 65 million dice. So your first option is the color. The second option here is the color of the text. That only has two options. You can either do white or you can do black. If we click on this, you can see that now we can just move this around. We have every color under the rainbow and then some. So if we want to choose, you know, kind of a nice minty color, kind of like that. We also have the alpha channel. I haven't really seen that do too much. Alpha is usually done with transparency, and I've never seen them look like they are glass or transparent. And if I go in here and change that like that, I think all it does is, I mean, I didn't see anything. Did you? See, it even reset, it looks like. So I'm not sure what the alpha actually does. That might be just a remnant. This is a default color picker from, you know, where you're using images and stuff like that, and with the dice it actually doesn't care about that. So we'll just go and leave it there, and that is our dice. Now with our dice, there's two things you can do with it. You can left click and pick it up, move it around, and then just throw it into the chat window to roll it. We can also right click on a die and we'll get this little pop-up menu of how many of said die do we want to pick up. So if we wanted to pick up, say, 20 20-sided dice, there we go. Now we have 20 20-sided dice. We click and throw them in there, and now it will add all those up for us. We also have the option of picking up a dice with the left click and then right clicking once to add a dice. Right click twice, add 2 dice. And I believe, let's see if I can do this fast by using my other hand. I believe it will do up to 60. I'm not really counting. That's it right there. So that's the max amount of dice you can hold. If we throw those in there, boom, look at all that dice. So 712, that's a hit. This is basically kind of your dice. Now you have the 20 side, the 12 side, you know, exact same options there. The 10 side does have one difference. It actually has this one that looks like a percent symbol, and this is so you can roll your percent dice. For those of you that have dice and played with them before, you know that a lot of times the 10-sided dice has a 0 and then goes up to 9. This actually shows a 10 because they're saying 0 is actually 0. So this has a 10. But if I click on the, whoops, didn't mean to do that. And if I right click and do percent, it's going to give me 2 dice. One of these is going to be the percentile dice. So you'll see we have a 2, 0, and 9, which is 29, and so on and so forth. Therefore, if you get a 10 and another 10, that's basically 100. If you get a 0 or a 10, I guess it'd be a 0. I guess your 20-sided dice isn't going to have the 10. It's going to have double 0. Let's see if that... yeah, I'm trying to think. How would I don't know if I can really show that. So if we go to percentile, is it right there? No, you can't see it. Oh, there it is right there, double 0. So that's how you would get the lower numbers. That was actually really lucky. Other than that, 8-sided dice, same thing, 2 to 20 there. 6-sided dice is a little different as well because we actually have custom dice here. And this is where you could simulate flipping a coin or a custom amounts aside. So if we click on the custom die here, you'll see we get another one, and it just shows us these things. But if we move, this is a D0. Don't know why you'd ever roll a D0. It's always going to be 0. This is a D2, or the equivalent of flipping a coin, a heads or tails. And then we have a D3, which 3-sided die, you know. I don't know where you'd really roll a D3 either. So that is your 6-sided dice. Then we have the 4-sided dice. And if we do that, once again, we have the 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, and 20 to select those. All the dice, as I said, you can actually pick up, right click, and add dice to it up to, I believe it was 60. Advantage, disadvantage only works with a 20-sided dice. If I try to roll an advantage with this, it's still only going to roll one die, and the value on the die is going to be the value I get. The modifiers do work with that, so we can add, +2 to our D4, and it will actually add, our D4 rolled a 2. No, wait, that's the +2. So we rolled a 3 + 2, which is 5. Hopefully that makes sense to you. The other thing related to dice is you may or may not see a dice tower over here. I like to move my dice tower more close to the dice themselves. What this does is this gives a couple options for you. One is you can quickly whisper the GM just by clicking on that, and you'll notice it adds WGM, which isn't very hard to type, but it lets you whisper the GM really quickly. The other thing it does, other than unlock to move it, actually we can relock it, right? No, we already relocked it. The other thing we can do is we can roll in this, and it's what's called a blind roll. So this means I do not get to see the results. So if I take my 20-sided dice, roll it in there, you'll see that I see a dice tower here, and it says 20, but I don't get to see this. Now on the GM side of thing, the GM does get to see your tower roll. And this symbol right here is saying it's hidden. I guess you won't see that as a player, but I can see that you rolled a 9. Really nice thing about this is it helps eliminate a lot of metagaming. If I'm rolling a stealth check, for example, if I have my character and I go in here and I'm told that I need to maybe medicine check, I'm told roll a medicine check. If I know that I fail that check, I'm going to act differently. Or a stealth check. If I know that I failed a stealth check, I'm probably not going to sneak into a base anymore. I'm probably just going to, I'm just stealthy and, going to hang out here. So this is really nice because it'll eliminate, a lot of metagame playing or metagaming. So if we come in here, we can see as the GM that they rolled a 4. We can tell them that they feel like they've done the best they can on dressing the wound on the person, and it does look like the bandage is holding and the bleeding is slowing. However, they still are bleeding out or whatever. They might still take damage. However, the person playing the character that rolled the check, they just get what I just told them and are assuming everything is as good as they could have done. So really nice to have the dice tower. If your GM doesn't have it, then, or if they don't have it enabled, it won't be here, and therefore you can't play with it. Let's see, we're at 23 minutes, so I think we're gonna go ahead and end this episode. No, we'll do one more thing. It's going to be about 25 minutes. We're going to do this bar down here. That means all we really have left is all the little sidebar buttons. So down here, we have a hot bar. This hot bar, you can put dice on. Like if I wanted to say 2d20, I can place them down there. And now you can see I have 2d20 down there. I can right click, I can clear that slot, or I can edit it. So if I wanted to actually give it a label and say 2d20 like so, now I have a nice little label on it, right? You can do lots of things. For example, if we have anywhere you see this little eye, and this eye is what we see because I have this set up as a default as the gray theme because it gives you the most real estate. Some other ones put a dragon up here that make it take a lot of space. I like to have lots of real estate, so this one's really nice in that sense. But let's say, for example, we want to put our initiative down there. We can actually grab the little die here and put our initiative down there. Now you'll notice it automatically takes the label of init, and now when we roll that, it will say that we rolled initiative of 7. We can do the same thing with all kinds of things. If we wanted to have quick reference to, say, our character information, our class information, we can drag that little shield there down here, and now whenever we click this, we get the cleric information from the SRD. Or we can even take our entire portrait here and just drag that and drop that, and now we have Tazzy, so we have yet another way of accessing our character sheet. So instead of coming up here, now we can just hit the 4 on the keyboard. Oh, whoops, we're in the chat window. We hit 4 on the keyboard. Wait. I don't know why that's not doing it right. Get out of the chat window. Oh, it's F4. That's why. So if we hit F4, I forgot these are function keys, not the numbers. So if we hit F4 on the keyboard, it will pull that up. If we hit F1, we'll roll 2 20-sided dice, so on and so forth. Now, you might think that 12 is not really that much. However, with key combinations, we actually have lots and lots and lots of these things. So, for example, the default is F1 through 12 is your standard. If I hold down Shift, you'll see that it changes to S1 through 12. If I hold down Control, it changes to C1 through 12. If I hold down Alt, I get A1 through 12. But wait, there's more. If I hold down Shift and Alt, I get SA1 through 12. If I hold Control Alt, I get CA1 through 12. If I hold, go away. If I hold down Control and Shift, I get SC1 through 12. And finally, I think, if I hold SC and A, or Shift Control Alt, I get SCA1 through 12. So lots and lots of options for you to actually, click on the hotbar buttons that you want. And if I want to drag something, say, to the Shift 1 through 12, I just hold down Shift while I grab my dice and get them set up how I want, drag them there, and now when I let off Shift, it's gone until I do it. Then if I hold Shift and hit F1, there are my dice. All right, so I think this is a good spot. We're just under 30 minutes. That's a bit longer than I like these episodes to go, but hopefully you learned something and you feel like you are more comfortable with the Fantasy Grounds interface. In the next episode, like I said, we're going to be going over these guys over here. Might not do much in the campaign because players generally do not have any real access to the campaign stuff. We'll just kind of peruse over those, but the rest of the stuff will be kind of good stuff to go over. So, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a thumbs up down below. Aside from that, comment, like, and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. Check out my Discord and my other channels. And don't forget to tell other people about my channel. Have them check it out. If they like what they see, they can sub. We can grow the channel. It'll be awesome. And that is it, my friends. Until next time, I'll be seeing you later. Bye.